Alrighty, we're going to replace a couple three-way switches. Here in the country I was born in, we use a 14 American wire gauge on 15 amps, 12 American wire gauge on 20 amps. The black is live, the white is neutral, the bare or the green is the ground, and red and blue are also live colors. White may be live in such things like a switch loop or a 222 40 volt circuit where the appliance does not require a neutral. So you only need two live wires and a ground. So that will be a case where you'll find a white wire live. And you'll see in switch loops, the white wire may be live. So we're going to replace two three-way switches. We use 14 American wire gauge on 15 amps and 12 American wire gauge on 20 amps for both outlets and lighting. Most generally, they like to put outlets on 12 gauge wire, but you can put them on 14 gauge wire except for in a kitchen. The kitchen has to be 12. Alrighty, so we'll unscrew the older switch from the box here. Okay, so we have our white, the ground, and the red and the black. So we got to find out which one is the common here. Usually the common screw is a darker color. There's the common. See how that's darker than the other two? So our black is the common. So I'm going to cut these wires off. And the device we're putting in is a pressure plate here. So you put the wire under the terminal and tighten the screw so you don't have to wrap the wire around the screw. So here's our common screw. See how it's darker than the other three? Or the other two? So what we're going to do... we're going to strip with our 14 gauge hole. Okay, we're going to hold our wire up to the pressure plate to make sure it's not too long. And that one's perfectly length. That's a good length. And that is a good length. So next we'll just take our pliers and make sure our ends are straight here. Okay, so our first wire we're going to hook up is our ground wire. I'll shorten this up because we don't need that much wire in the box. So we will make a loop the direction that our screw turns. We'll go around the screw. Close our loop the direction that the screw turns. And we will tighten our screw. I hate how these Phillips screws rip up your Phillips screwdrivers. I go through them quite a bit, but I got it tight. Okay, so our black is our common, so we'll put our red, black and white on our switch. So we're going to put the white under that terminal right there. We're going to tighten our screw. There it is, tight. I gotta make sure this ground connection is tight. I'm gonna use the flathead screwdriver. Alright, just tighten that up a little bit more. Okay, we'll flip our switch around. And remember when we took the black wire off our other terminal? It was on the darker colored terminal. So this is the darker colored terminal on this switch. So I make sure I don't get the insulation under that pressure plate there. Tighten it up. And we'll do the same with our red. Get the insulation just up to the bottom of the pressure plate. I'll just tighten it up. And there it is. Now we can fold our wires back into our box here. Okay, now we're going to fold them, push them back into our box. We're going to keep our ground wire going across to the bottom here so that it doesn't touch our terminals. Now let's push our ground wire down, make sure it stays away from our terminals there. So that is our first switch. Okay, so we'll unscrew our other one from the wall here. So this one has, you put the wire around the screws, and of course that one's our common one. So we're just going to look until we find our common, and the white is the common. See how that screw is a little darker than the other? Oh no, this one is the common. See how that's copper color and these are brass? And that's a brass. There's nothing wrong with this switch. It's a fairly new switch, but we're just putting in all newer ones so that they all match and everything's all the same color. So we're going to save this switch. Okay, so we're going to put our wires around the screws here. We're going to put our ground wire around the green screws. So we're going to open the loop up a little bit. They made the loop a little too big. Okay, our red and white are the travelers in this switch loop. Okay, this loop is a little big, so we'll open our loop up a little bit. We'll clip a little off, bring our wire up. Close it the direction that our screw turns. You always put your wire around the screw the direction that the screw turns, so we have a nice connection like that. Okay, we'll roll it over this way. I'm going to do it this way so I keep our ground wire down at the bottom here. This loop is a little bit too big, so I'll open that up. I'll just cut a little smidgen off. Make it up this way. Sometimes red and white are used for travelers, or sometimes red and black are used for travelers. It all depends on what the contractor chooses to do. Okay, that loop is a little too big, so I'll just open it up. I'll just take a little bit off. Okay, we got our insulation up above the plastic, but behind our screw. So just snug it up. So that's what we want right there. Now we're going to fold our wires back into the box. Now we're going to keep this ground wire down at the bottom here, so it stays down away from everything. Okay, I'm just going to make sure our ground wire is down away from everything. Alrighty, so that is how to replace a pair of three-way switches here in the country I was born in. I showed you how to identify the common screw, and when you take the old one off, identify the common screw so you know which wire goes to the common screw. And it may not always be in the same place on the new switch. Peace. Thanks for watching.